Songwriting can be an arduous process sometimes, and there are occasions where we need all the help we can get. One technique that can be incredibly useful is to use something called a 2-5-1. A sequence of 3 chords, traditionally embraced by the jazz fraternity but equally of use whatever your chosen genre. The 2-5-1 feels like an ending, because it ends on the 1 chord. So it's a surefire way of navigating any chord progression back to the 1, resulting in a feeling of arriving at home. Because of this, we're talking about probably one of the most recognisable sounds in all of Western music. So in this month's tutorial, I'm going to explore exactly what a 2-5-1 is and how to build one, and then round off with a couple of examples of how it can be used in your own productions. The first step in figuring out what a 2-5-1 is finding out what those numbers actually refer to. And to do that, we need to look at a major scale and the diatonic chords that are built from it. Let's start with the C major scale. Seven notes from C to B, played on the white notes of the keyboard with a second high C at the top. If we give these notes numbers from 1 to 7 instead of the letters C to B, we now have a way of describing melodies and spelling chords regardless of key. For instance here, because we're in the C major scale, the notes 1, 3 and 5 make up a C major triad. But this would be the case in any key, as long as we use the number 1 for the root. We can use the same numbering system for the diatonic chords of the key of C major, which is the set of triads created by stacking up alternate notes from the C major scale to make 3-note chords. This gives us C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished chords. These are usually labelled as Roman numerals, uppercase for major chords and lowercase for minor and diminished chords. Whether we use Arabic or Roman numerals, we can now describe chord progressions by spelling them out using numbers rather than note or chord names. This means it doesn't matter what key we're in, the progression will translate the same to any key you like. So a 1-4-5 progression, for example, in C major, will give us C major, F major, and G major. But in the key of D major, it gives us D major, G major, and A major. So a 2-5-1 is a little building block progression made up of the second, fifth, and first chords of the diatonic set. So in the case of C major, that means D minor, G major, and C major. It's an incredibly common songwriting device, and you'll hear it in all forms and genres of music, not just jazz. So how would we use it in, say, a contemporary pop setting? Here's what a basic 2-5-1 in the key of C major looks and sounds like, played with simple piano chords. The minor 2 chord is D minor, D, F, A. The 5 chord is G major, G, B, D. And the tonic 1 chord is C major, C, E, G. This is the 2-5-1's most basic form, however, so how can we make it more interesting? You can spice the 2-5-1 up a bit by using seventh chords and different voicings and inversions, as shown in this example. Here, I've gone for D minor 7, D, F, A, C, G9, G, F, A, B, and C major 7, C, E, G, B. This gives it a slightly more jazz feel, good for soul or R&B genres. So how can we use a 2-5-1 effectively in a track? As a basic example, here's a diatonic C major progression, using a 2-5-1 at the end to get back to the tonic C chord as it repeats. We've got C major, G major, F major, C major, A minor, E minor, D minor, G major, and C major. And the 2-5-1 is the final three chords in bars 7 and 8. For this next example in the key of C minor, our progression is C minor, E flat major 7, A flat major 7, F minor, D minor 7 flat 5, and G sus4 to G major. The 2-5 happens in bar 8, resolving to the repeat of the 1 C minor chord on the following downbeat. The D minor 7 flat 5 comes from the fact that the 2 chord in a minor key is a diminished chord, while the G sus4 is used as a passing chord to add a little drama in the transition to the G major. You can use a 2-5-1 to change key by just putting a 2-5 from the key you're modulating into before the tonic of that key. Here I've modulated from the key of C minor in the first 8 bars to the key of D minor in the second 8 by way of a 2-5-1 that precedes the D minor chord on the downbeat of the second section. The 2 chord of D minor is E minor 7 flat 5. The 5 chord is A major. And the 1 chord is the D minor. This last progression is actually in the key of E minor, but it begins with a C major 7 chord, which, as it's the first thing we hear, our ears initially assume is the tonic chord, even though the tonic is actually the E minor 7 in bar 2. progression goes C major 7, B7, E minor 7, D minor 7, G7, C major 7, B7, E minor 7, D minor 7, and G7. So where's the 251? I've cheated a bit here by using a 251 that's not actually in the key of the tune. What I've done is essentially pretend that the key is C major based on that first C major 7 chord. So when the pattern wraps around a second time, I've preceded the C major 7 chord that falls on the downbeat of bar 3 with a 2-5, as it would be if we were in that key, namely D minor 7 followed by a G7.